Welcome to Not IE, aka Not Internet Explorer, where I explore writing web apps without using third-party libraries, which is now viable due to the retirement of Internet Explorer. Everything that I'm going to show you today, none of it will work in Internet Explorer, but should work in just about every other browser. Okay, so the topic is custom tag name or is attribute. And this is your first design decision that you're going to have to make when you're building custom elements. Now, you could do both. You could make a wrapper, one for the other, and do it. It's fine. There's lots of things you can do with it. But so I've got this little example here where I have a hello world, hello component, and I have a couple of examples of it being used. Here's a template literal we're using it. Here we're using new to new up the JavaScript, and we're using document.createElement to new it up, put it on the DOM. You can see there's some differences there. I'm going to break those down. And then the last one, I'm going to show the advantages of building your own create element function to new these things up when you're not using them in template literals, obviously. So, all right, well, let's give you a summary up front that the differences between using the extending an attribute or extending an existing attribute using the syntax or using custom tag name, there are differences. The differences are marginal. You're not boxing yourself in one way or the other, but sometimes marginal differences make a difference to people. Sometimes the difference between like a $1,000 bike and a $5,000 bike, besides the money, might be a 1 pound difference. I don't know, I'm not a bike rider, but I'm familiar with the idea. And so that might be important to people. So you might want to think about this, or you might not. And I'll give you a quick summary that if you're doing brownfield work, like let's say you have an old Angular JS Bootstrap application that you need to rewrite, I would recommend, unless it's if it's an internal app and you don't have to support Internet Explorer, I'd recommend doing this. And I would favor using the is attribute or extending custom tag names like div, form, button, table, etc. Because they're going to align with what you already have there, and you're just going to be attaching some extra functionality to it. It's nice. If you're doing greenfield work, do whatever works for you, whatever works for the situation. I wouldn't set one way for every custom element on your team. And it also depends on the team, how they're going to use it, and the type of work that you're doing. And again, you can work around either of these very easily. So let's go through our components under study here. HelloWorld extends HTML element. Anytime you extend HTML element, you have to give it a name. So right here, you have to register this component with the global custom element registry, and it's a global. There's something in the work right now in the specs so that you could have scoped definitions, but right now it's global. So Hello World will always call the Hello World class and invoke it. And in this case, I'm wiring up the connected callback, which means when the minute it's added to the DOM, it's going to run this code. Okay. There's only 4 or so methods that you need to worry about. You can check them all out on MDN or some other website, or maybe I'll do another video on that. But that's not what we're talking about today. So the other one is Hello Universe, which extends the HTML span element, which we get this extra little work right here that we're still giving it a name, but it's going to be used like this. Span is Hello Universe. And we also have to add this little bit extra here, extends span. Will not work if you don't do that. Some people that are new to the web custom elements really get tripped up on this. They'll forget to do the definition. They'll spend quite a bit of time figuring out what's going wrong, and it's just because they didn't do this. I have some helper classes that help out with this. Maybe I'll do a video on it. And you would think that the browser would just automatically figure that out by the base element, but there's a reason why they don't, and maybe I'll go into that later. So, okay, so let's go into the different use cases here. So I have view 1 is right here. And we're just putting it on the DOM. Well, let's just take a look at the DOM here real quick. So you can see I have view 1, it says hello world, span is hello world, or universe, boom, works. Got a before CSS selector going on there. Now, if you want to look at the raw HTML, let's look at that real quick. You can see here that my body, view 1, view 2, view 3, view 4, boom, done. I have a function called define all. It's going to define all my components, and I have an import map here for my create element function that I'll show later, but let's not worry about that. I got a little bit of CSS showing these as block. Hello world is inline. I tried to do this with adding some white space in here, and I found an interesting side effect that I'll show you guys as well. Yeah, well, let's do that. Let's show my CSS side effect. So you wouldn't think that this would make an issue in display, but watch. I don't know if you saw it real quick, but it shifted left. I'll do it again. If I put it back, save, boom, it's going to shift right. I don't think white space is supposed to make a difference on this, but it did. Okay, but that's straightforward, not a big deal. Okay, so let's go to the view number 2, where we are using a JavaScript constructor. So maybe later I'll talk about my dependency injection on this, but okay, so we're using a JavaScript constructor, and now one thing that is kind of interesting when you do the JavaScript constructor, well, it's nice when you use JavaScript constructor, you don't have to worry about tag names. You just hit new, boom, it figures out the tag name, it puts it on the page, but we have this nasty side effect that basically the is attribute does not get set. It will invoke the class, or invoke the function, or invoke the custom element, but it will not set the attribute. Let me show you. If I comment that out, let's go to number 2, and I look, there is no is attribute on there. Now, as a side note, it doesn't work. Well, I'll hit that in the next example about the inverse of that, because I really can't demonstrate that here. So if you knew it up from the JavaScript class, you got to set the is attribute if you ever want to use the is attribute for any kind of selectors, and I would just do it. Later I'm going to talk about building your own create element class that will do this for you automatically, but let's move on. Okay, the next one, we're using DOM API, document.createElement, create element hello world. Great, we just added the DOM. We have the same, okay, the first big difference is here you can see the constructor. If it's a custom element, extending another one when you use document.createElement, you have to add this is syntax. Now, you would think, hey, we're adding this is syntax right there. It's going to add the appropriate attribute of is syntax. Nope. Hello Universe does not have the is attribute on there. So we have to come back, make sure we add it, unless we have our own custom class that will do it. Boom, there's the is attribute. Now this is where things are kind of interesting. If I copy this down, doing this in Chrome so I don't have any of the fancy tools, so let's just comment this out. This is kind of fun. Watch this. What do you think? You think that'll work or not work? Well, it didn't. So you cannot just add the is attribute and expect it to invoke your custom element. You have to add that when it's constructed. Well, not your, yeah. You can't add the attribute. It's got to be done in the special constructor. So let's put that back. Okay, we got it where we want it to be. All right. My favorite, when when I'm not doing it in template literals. I use template literals, like example 1, all the time. This is great, works great, it's awesome. When I'm not, I pretty much always use my createElement function. And the reason why I like this is so the first one is my, I mean, you could build this yourself if you needed to. I don't share it out because of work issues and stuff. But createElement, HelloWorld is the name of the element, and then I'm going to give it a list of attributes as a JSON object, and it's automatically going to convert it over to attributes. You know, you can see the color is purple, so kind of nice, kind of clean, a little less verbose. I think it's easier to read. Now, also my createElement function is kind of smart in the sense that if it detects the word is in the attributes list, it's going to call the appropriate is constructor, or document createElement with the is pieces. It's going to copy the value in there, and it's just going to work. It also does a couple of other fun things. For example, it'll do Boolean attributes. So let's look at hello universe right here, and you can see that there is no show attribute. But if I make it to true, let it re-render, there is a show attribute. I just picked show as something to put on there. This could have been anything. It could have been foo. I'm not showing or hiding. But if you don't know what Boolean attributes are, Google it on MDN. And the whole idea is that instead of doing something like show equals true, that's not going to work. Edit attribute show equals true. You might say, hey, that's nice, that's easy. Well, that doesn't work if you call, if you query select for the span and then call span.hasAttribute in your JavaScript API as show, both true and false are going to show true for hasAttribute. So, and then it always gets to be a pain where you got to read it and make getters and setters. It's just best to use Boolean attributes when you're going to use Boolean attributes. And so anyway, my createElement class realizes it works for true, it works for true. I don't think I've put like 0 and 1 in there and stuff yet, but you know, it just does some basic Boolean checks on the attributes and builds out the element. I've got a couple of other things in there that, like, if you create an A perf, you can only use, which might be overkill, but for me, I wanted to make it so you could only use hashed links. You couldn't put foreign links in there using it. I don't know, I was just having fun that day. Okay, so let's break down a couple of other things that are of interest here. CSS performance. So, tag names. Theoretically, tag names are going to be faster than attributes. Attributes aren't terribly fast. It's selectors. They're there and they work and you can use them. I would use them on a limited basis, but they're going to be slower. If you're building a huge big app with a bunch of stuff going on, you might not use that as your primary CSS selector. Tag names will be faster. So, and what I mean by that is, so you got span, is, hello universe, before, content, white space, pre. I was trying to put a space in there. For whatever reason, it's not working. In these two examples, or wait, does this have the is attribute on it? Let me see. Oh, it has the is attribute on it. Oh, because it's the wrong one. Hello universe. That's why. Let me go fix that real quick and maybe it'll start working. Is hello universe. Yeah, that might have been confusing. There we go. The last one's right. And that's why the last one's. There we go. I was wondering why they broke on me. Another low budget production here. Okay. Hello universe. So you got your CSS selectors. If you want to know what that's doing, just turn it off. Save. You can see they all smash in together, except for my first one in the template URL that shouldn't be behaving this way, but it is. I'm not going to file a bug or anything. Maybe there's a valid reason for it. Don't know if I care, but so anyway, there we go. That is an attribute selector. So if you are extending from an existing thing, probably people that are using are expecting to have that is attribute, and I would make sure you have that on there. Let's see if I forgot anything else. Okay. Oh, I'm leaning away from this. I saw in a lot of component libraries, they make it so that, like Quasar, for example, you can change the prefix on all your custom elements from Q to some other things. There's a lot of libraries like that. So they use constants for things. I think this is a little hokey, not cool. Ooh, forgot my angle bracket there. I don't like that. I think if I had to do that all day in temporal literals, I'd go a little bit nuts. I'd prefer this syntax, but I might choose this because this might have faster CSS performance or CSS selector performance than this. So now my personal experience is when I first started building custom elements, native custom elements, tag names everywhere. I have a fairly strong XML background and XML technology suites, and so being semantic and creating my own tag names just was really exciting to be able to do that in the browser. I did that in Angular and a bunch of other things, a lot of fun. But then I found I was doing some strange things, like I was making like classes, attributes, and then passing them down, what I'll call pass down attributes, to then just go where they were supposed to go, and just got a little excessive. And then I was like, I'm going to bite the bullet and start using, extending from the elements that were already there, or the proper elements where people can put classes on it and just have it work the way that they want. But I think this syntax, if you are going to use constants, configurable names for your elements, this I think is much cleaner. But again, I'm kind of leaning away from it and just say, go all in, pick a name, prefix it with something that's meaningful to your project that no one else is going to use, and just go with it. And then just hard code it and use it. Now, that doesn't mean you're hard coded into an implementation. You'll see down here I talk a little bit about dependency injection. Like in this example here, my custom elements.define, if I had a hello universe v2, I could just do v2, since this is global, bam, every hello universe is going to use my version 2 of this element, my custom element, because I'm telling it to. As long as the signatures are the same, there's nothing I need to do. It's good to go. Global dependency injection right there. At least for now. Again, when they get scoped, custom elements where you can redefine a custom element at a specific scope or inside of a shadow DOM, that might change, but for now, you can get away with that. You can still do the dependency injection type thing, at least swapping out functionality. In the other ways, like in this case, if you were going to do it, you would just change your import statement. So instead of HelloWorld, wherever your import is, you could point it to the new file. If it had a different name, like it was v2, you could use the as syntax to, HelloWorld v2. So like import hello. It's capital, huh? World v2 as world from / world v2 .ts. There we go. So you wouldn't have to change all your code and everything. You could still do that, and you would just do it this way as long as your signatures were still the same. Now, and on this example, it wouldn't matter if you could even change it from a custom element or tag name to extending something. This really wouldn't matter. Where it would matter though is when you're doing it this way or some of the other ways in your app. So there is a way to swap out and get kind of a little bit of dependency injection going on in here. So I think I have hit everything that I wanted to hit on here. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you want to see something different or something new or a specific question, put it in the comments for the 3 people that are ever going to watch this video, and I'll do my best to make it happen. I have a setup of another 4 or 5 videos, maybe 6 or 7 videos to make, where I'm thinking about breaking down that createElement class, also talking about creating a static install function. It'd be kind of nice, not to steal all the thunder, but and then do something like that, and you can put your define element in there, and then you get a little bit more control over it. Or if this needs to be used by other components, you could or has some DOM work to get set up before it can start working. You can do all that. So anyway, got some other stuff I hope to get out soon. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.